Risk analysis of the company's activities by means of simulation. The use of simulation methods and modern information technologies increases competitiveness, management efficiency, and eliminates possible risk in the company's activities. The use of the Monte-Carlo method is promising in simulation. The basis of the Monte-Carlo method is to obtain a large number of implementations of a random process which is formed so that the probabilistic characteristic, mathematical expectations, probability of some events, probability of the trajectory in a certain area, etc., are equal to the predetermined value of the problem. Construction of the model using this method should be based on the distribution of random variables in the studied process. At the present stage of economic development, information technology can be considered an attribute of a successful company. Creating an effective IT application system in a company is one of the aspects of ensuring its competitiveness and avoiding risks. Modern simulation technologies, including economic systems, are needed to understand the causal relationship in economics, planning, forecasting, decision-making, and more. With the help of simulation, you can answer various questions that arise when deciding on changes in the process occurring in the business. How to change the profitability of the business, what changes that have already taken place will affect the productivity of technological equipment and personnel, what additional investments the company needs to make, what will be the payback period of the investment. Simulation allows you to test different ideas by reproducing them in a computer model, which is much cheaper than conducting many tests and bug fixes on real processes. Today, simulation is a powerful analytical tool based on modern information technology, including object-oriented programming, Internet solution, powerful graphical shells for modeling and interpretation of initial simulation results, multimedia tools, etc. Today, simulation is seen as a mandatory step in making important management decisions in companies that are actively implementing modern IT in their activities, and this contributes to the adoption of sound strategic management decisions. Strategic planning tools based on computer simulation provide an opportunity to reflect complex nonlinear interaction in the business, assess the consequences of various scenarios, or predict the further development of the company. Initial prerequisites and problem statement. One of the most powerful methods of analyzing economic system is simulation, which is the process of conducting experiments with mathematical models of complex real-world systems using information technology. Computer simulation involves building a model using specialized software. Computer experiments with a certain degree of probability describe the patterns of functioning of real systems and objects. To apply this method to research, create a simulation system that includes a simulation model as well as internal and external mathematical software. Then enter the required input data and observe the changes in indicators, which in the process of modeling can be analyzed and subjected to statistical processing. The range of application of computer simulation is extremely wide, from specific forms of business to the simulation of the economy as a whole. The main areas of use of simulation economic objects are forecasting the development of national economies, development and implementation of information systems for various purposes, training and personnel management. The methods of computer simulation play an extremely important role in the introduction of information technology in the management of companies. In the creation of information systems of economic and organizational management, the strategy for the development of modern information systems in companies, in particular decision support system, should provide analysis of the formulation and solution of this class of problems. Analytical calculation of the necessary indicators and statistical characteristics of business activity on the basis of retrospective information from databases, data visualization, visual, graphical, and tabular display of available information, a question of knowledge, determining the relationship and independencies of business process based on existing information, simulation, conducting computer experiment with mathematical models that describe the behavior of complex systems. Tasks of this class are used to analyze the possible consequences of decision analysis such as what if, management synthesis, determination of permissible control actions that ensure the achievement of goals. Optimization, based on the integration of simulation management, optimization and statistical methods of modeling and forecasting. Today, computer simulation plays an important role in the process of automation of the company as a whole. This work involves the following steps: engineering, building a model of the company; state of re-engineering, implementation of analysis and improvement of the model; management stage, monitoring the company work within the created model. At the same time, various methods of analysis are used, in particular such as functional cost analysis, simulation modeling. All over the world, simulation has become widespread in the study of complex systems and objects due to important advantages. First, it's possible to answer many questions that arise in the earlier stages of design and pre-design of systems, avoiding the use of trial and error, which involves significant costs. Second, the method makes it possible to study the peculiarities of the functioning of the system under any conditions, including those are not implemented in field experiments. The parameters of the system and the environment can be varied within extremely wide limits, reproducing an arbitrary situation. Third, it becomes possible to predict the behavior of the system in the near and distant future, extrapolating to the model the results of industrial tests. In the case the data obtained earlier are supplemented through the application of a statistical approach. Fourth, simulation models of technical and technological systems and devices make it possible to reduce their testing time many times over. Fifth, using the method of simulation you can artificially quickly and in large quantities to obtain the necessary information that reflects the course of real processes, avoiding expensive and often impossible field tests of these processes. Six, the simulation model is an extremely flexible cognitive tool capable of reproducing arbitrary both real and hypothetical situations. Seventh, implementing simulation on a computer is often the only real way to solve such problems. However, it should be noted that the method of computer simulation, despite all its advantages and versatility, is not always acceptable because the calculation on simulation models requires significant money and time. When solving a problem that contains one or more random variables, you must have a rule for deciding what values each random variable will take. The most effective way to do this is to assign values according to the probability distribution and consider them as values that actually took place. Because the simulation is a sample experiment, this process is repeated many times, for example 1000 times. Each time we refer to a random variable, we select a value from the probability distribution and use it to determine the result. We choose the value of the random variable so that the frequency of occurrence of individual values is related to the probability distribution. The simulation procedure in summary consists of the following steps. First, construction of a simulation model that determines uncertainty and risks. Second, performing experiments on a computer repeating them according to the model many times. each time getting one possible scenario. Third, conducting statistical analysis of experimental data. Fourth, interpretation of the obtained statistical results for making the optimal decision. The software implementation of the Monte Carlo method solves the model problem many times with different combination of values, each time selected from the corresponding probability distributions which were previously specified. The results of the experiment are statistically analyzed and the output is statistical result. These results can be interpreted in risk included in the decision. For example, you can find that there is a 10% chance that the internal rate of return will exceed 25%, or with probability 0.9 you can be sure that it will exceed 14%. That the computer implementation of the simulation model involves its repeated application using different combinations of randomly selected values using probability distribution. The aim is to obtain information not only on the average expected value, but also on the distribution of probabilities of possible outcomes, to know the risks. The computer implementation of the Monte Carlo method involves the user specifying the number of iterations to be performed or the number of default iterations to be performed. For example, 100 iterations. Once the system has entered the simulation mode, you need to select and enter into the system variables to be analyzed, data output information, format, e.g. histogram frequency distribution, periods for which you want to get printed results. As a rule, if an error is made when entering the parameters of Monte Carlo model into the system provides certain options for its correction. The essence of the Monte Carlo method is as follows. For the desired value of m we find such a random variable x, the mathematical expectation of which is equal to m. For this purpose we calculate n independent values of m sub 1, m sub 2, etc. of the random variable m. Evaluate the mathematical expectation, as it's shown on the slide. For the triangular distribution law, the probability density has the form, and for the triangle distribution law, the distribution function of a random variable x has the form. Algorithm for applying the Monte Carlo methods to predict the company's activities. A generalized algorithm for determining the company's income or the condition of cessation of production and payback ratio or profit margin is shown on the figure first. The algorithm is based on a modification of the Monte Carlo methods of generating samples of random variables with uniform and triangular distribution. After creating the algorithm, the program code for implementing the Monte Carlo method was developed to predict the company's activities in the object-oriented high-level programming language Python. A fragment of the list in which were the calculation of key indicators is presented on the slide. After developing the program, the initial parameters of all variables were entered into the program, which for convenience of presentations were summarized on this table. After entering the initial data and processing them by the program, indicators of simulation of net income and profit margins of the company during the forecast periods were obtained. The result of simulation in the form of a table of frequencies. Analyzing the result of simulation, it can be noted that even in the 10th year, net income can fluctuate greatly, between loss of more than $300,000 and profits of more than $3 million. In addition, the rate of return varies according to these investment indicators from 0.7 to 673,295. The graph of the distribution of probabilities of net profits showed that the lowest profit may have a low or highest probability when there are significant risks of a losing investment and when variable costs exceeded the selling price. In general, it can be noted that the use of the Monte-Carlo method and the triangular distribution allows you to predict the activities of the enterprise for future periods with a certain probability of the ratio of profit and payback. Conclusions. Based on computer simulation as an effective method of analyzing economic systems, it's possible to ensure competitiveness and avoid risk in companies of any level and scale. Making management decisions at risk is always accompanied by subjective and objective difficulties that are associated with changes in the business processes. Strategic planning support tools based on computer simulation provide an opportunity to reflect complex nonlinear interaction in the business, assess the consequences of the implementation of various scenarios, or predict further developments in the company. The synthesized new mathematical model and its software implementation describe the determination of the company's income or the condition of cessation of production at the rate of the return or rate of return. The application in the classical Monte Carlo method of generating samples of random variables that have a uniform and triangular distribution, as well as risk analysis of the company's activities and forecasting for the future, give a greater probability of a correct result. In addition, this approach is used in cases of lack or limited amount of data, which is also an advantage of using the proposed method. Thank you for your attention.